What is up, freaks? Welcome back to Tales from the Crypt. It's your boy Marty Ben here on a Wednesday afternoon, a very special Wednesday afternoon. We've got a very special guest in the studio, well, in the virtual studio today. Before I introduce our very special guest, got to give a shout out to this week's sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Unchained Capital. Down there in Texas, they eat steak, they drill for oil, and now they're setting up, sitting around and figuring out the best ways to secure your Bitcoin. It's a great state and a great company. Check out the multisig vault platform that they just released on Monday. They did a presentation at the Austin Bitcoin Developers Meetup. You guys can go check it out. I think there's a link on that meetup page. So you guys can enhance your security, preserve your sovereignty. Unchained vaults are compatible with Trezor and Ledger. You hold 2 or 3 keys on your own device, and it's 100% cold storage. Time to get your keys off the exchanges, freaks. If you're willing to take this responsibility into your own hands, and if you're holding a bunch of Bitcoin with a single key, look into multisig. We've been talking about this for a while in this podcast in particular. Multisig is definitely a safer way. It's time to take security seriously. Learn more at unchained-capital.com/vaults. That's unchained-capital.com/vault. And if you create a vault, it's a special deal they're throwing in, you'll get free access to the Bitcoin Standard Research Bulletin by Safedine for 3 months. So you get 3 months of a free quality newsletter. It's an incredible resource. If you haven't read it, go create a vault today and fall further down the rabbit hole. Freaks, I'd like to introduce you to a very special guest. We've been talking about a product he's been building for weeks or months now. Excuse me. We have a special day dedicated to this product. Today is that day. It's Wasabi Wednesday. I'd like to introduce you, freaks, to Adam Ficsor, a.k.a. No Para. Adam, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for coming on, Matt. This is a big week for you in particular. I'm going to let you take it away from here.
It's been a long time coming. Really happy to have you, Adam. Thank you for reaching out and coming on. We never do remote pods, particularly for Rabbit Hole, so we made an exception for you because you're just doing really good work.
Thank you. So you went to Jack too? You went to their office, to Twitter office? To Jack?
Oh no, I didn't. But
yeah, I went down. I went to Twitter, see what's going on down there. I was not able to get past the Twitter security guards. I was able to get past the Square security guards and sit down with Jack. That was fun. Apparently he's a freak now. He was tweeting about the podcast last night. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, you could be listening to this pod right now, and we
could be.
Know.
So. Try not to self-censor too much. All right, we're gonna. But yeah, it's Wasabi Wednesday. Wasabi. This is a topical news show. Wasabi was in the news today. You guys are experiencing a dust attack right now. Is this what's going on with this? We'll start with this and then jump into more particulars about Wasabi after that.
All right, jumping into the technicals right away. It's really interesting, you know. Well, first I tell you what is the dust attack is, and then I tell you how it happened in Wasabi, because that's different thing. In a dust attack, it just, if I'm a blockchain analyst and I see someone that made a Bitcoin transaction like 2 years ago, I sent him some money to that address 2 years ago, and then I want to see if he joins together that coin with it on his old address, what I sent, with a new transaction of his. And with that, I can connect together the 2 wallet clusters. So this is the dust attack. Now in Wasabi, it did not happen, of course, because they were sending money to mixed outputs, right? So they don't know who they were sending money to. And I'm not quite sure what they were trying to achieve with this. So I think it's an experiment that they want to see what's happening when this is. I think when this is happening, I'm not sure what they achieved with this or want to achieve. It's a good question. I can speculate, but I can't tell you what if it's effective or not. Yeah.
So with dust attacks, like, usually involves a very small amount, because in traditional dust attacks, it involves a very small amount because they're hoping that your wallet doesn't have, not your the wallets in general doesn't have good coin control, so it'll include that small little transaction, whatever, small little UTXO in whatever transaction you do. And in this case, it was also a very small amount. It's like 3 cents or something. Now, the main, you were saying online, it's a relatively, Wasabi automatically separates them out by UTXO, so you see the dust sitting there. The issue is that it's currently showing that it's got a high anonymity set, right? So the update should basically, you're going to basically not show that high anonymity set that doesn't exist, and what are you going to do? Hide it? That's the plan.
Yeah, so it's blockchain analysis. Wasabi has some built-in blockchain analysis heuristics, which are, of course, just emphasizes the difficulty with blockchain analysis, because this dust attack tricked Wasabi's blockchain analysis tool. What we did is simply we count the equal outputs of a transaction, and that equal output, how many equal output you have, that's the anonymity set. That's the basic heuristic. Now I could filter this out in the new release, which actually I released right now. It's on GitHub, it's not on the website yet. But I could filter this out. Okay, but the anonymity set cannot be higher than the number of inputs, which is going to be only 1 in this dust attack, which will happen right now. But then the attacker could say, okay, but I will do this dust attack in a way that I send from like 5 different inputs, and so he can play it out. Well, fine, play it out, but I mean, it's dust. It's by definition uneconomical to spend. So that's one Wasabi bug, that it shows the wrong anonymity set. Well, okay, we fix it, but the other bug is that it's so small that it's uneconomical to spend. So we are not going to show it up from the next release. It just it's in your wallet, but you're not gonna see it because it's just too small. That it is more expensive to spend than not to spend it, right? So we're just not going to show up the dust.
And so, as a sort of adversarial thinker, are you excited about this dust attack at all, or are you more stressed than excited?
Yes, I am very excited because it's a mythical attack, right? It never happened before. So research papers were writing about it, but there were no concrete example. The closest thing I've seen is that Bitcoin mixers were dusting other Bitcoin addresses, but that was not a dust attack. I'm not sure what they were trying to achieve with that. Probably some marketing stuff. But so this never happened really before, and I have a feeling it was not blockchain analysis, actually.
You don't think it was blockchain analysis?
I don't think so. So in Wasabi, we are experiencing a host of attacks, different attacks. For example, we had a Twitter group bot flow, so thousands of bots were coming into Wasabi group, and yeah, I don't want to talk details yet because I'm not sure, but all evidence, all clues points to a specific competition who yeah, so we will figure out eventually. I don't know, this is quite childish. I mean, the dust attack was not that effective. The Twitter bot attack was not that effective. Anyway, maybe we will hire blockchain. Maybe we will hire Chainalysis to figure out who were they.
How the tables have turned.
So you said Twitter group, but you meant Telegram group, right? When we had in the Telegram. we just had thousands of bots entering the Telegram group.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, these kind of things are good, right? Because Wasabi needs to be able, for it to be a useful tool, it needs to be able to withstand all sorts of types of attacks, right? It needs to work in an adversarial environment. One of the things that's interesting is that me and you had a back and forth online about best practices for using Wasabi. And really, if you want it to be as private as possible, you should never combine any transactions after you go through the Wasabi process, after you go through the CoinJoin process. And you should really use Wasabi as like a spending wallet, right? Where it's the, rather than like an intermediary wallet where you're going from, you know, a KYC exchange through Wasabi and then to like cold storage or a hardware wallet. And if you used it properly, if you used it in that manner, then the dusting would literally have zero effect, right? Because you're not combining any transactions to begin with. So this mostly targeted people who were combining after the CoinJoin.
Yes, this is another very interesting point, that one systemic risk that I experienced, only one systemic privacy issue there is with Wasabi, what we figured out, which is how some people use the wallet. From their hardware wallet, they send it to Wasabi, and then they send it back to their hardware wallet. Of course, how their hardware wallet is doing, they send all their addresses back to their backend server. So that's not ideal. And in this dust attack, that is my speculation, that as I seen, half of the people who has the dust were sending it out with zero link output. So I think what they do is that they click select all private and they send back to their hardware wallet. So it's like half of the people use it with hardware wallets. That's my speculation. That's so. If this is true, then it kind of shows that they did not really expose more things with the dusts than they otherwise would, because what I see is that they were always spending zero link outputs with dusts. So you could assume, you could go onto the blockchain and check it, but I don't want to spend on a block explorer all my day. So you could assume that the mixed outputs corresponding with the dusts, they were spending it together. In fact, they were just spending all the private coins into their hardware wallets, which is just a bad practice until Wasabi doesn't integrate hardware wallets. This is happening. But if this was the case, then the dust attack did not have any effect on helping blockchain analysis. But yeah, someone should look at it more truthfully, more deeply, because I'm not quite sure at this point. It's interesting.
Yeah, because it doesn't really tell them anything new. Like, they would know that you've linked those 6 UTXOs or whatever that went through the CoinJoin process are probably the same person combining, right? So even though it has that seventh UTXO in there, that's the dust, does it really actually tell them anything?
It sounds redundant, right? Yeah.
I'm maybe my ego's getting like the best of me a little bit, but I was getting a lot of shit for saying that people, you lose privacy if you combine, but if the alternative is to not do it, you're probably better off going through Wasabi anyway. And I when I saw this attack, I was like, someone's just trying to teach me a lesson, that you're going to have 50% of the people are combining, and now we have like kind of proof that 50% of the people are combining after the fact. But I think it's definitely like it's a wake up call for people. But my issue is privacy is such an issue with Bitcoin to begin with. And I think one of the best things Wasabi's doing besides making CoinJoin very user-friendly, is that it's really waking people up to how bad it really is, right? Like none of these wallets have good coin control. Like when people are using Ledger Live or using Trezor's web wallet, they have zero control of which outputs are which inputs are being selected, and they're super vulnerable to dust attacks to begin with, right? And all sorts of blockchain analytics. So to me, if the alternative is the person saying, I don't want to end up with 100.1 UTXOs and possibly have a huge fee burden in the future, so I'm not even going to use Wasabi. Like, is there a situation here where I've like been trying to work it through my head? Is there a situation here where using Wasabi like hurts your privacy? Like, I think it's always a net benefit regardless. Like even if you combine afterwards, it's definitely not as private as if you never combine, but it's got to be a net benefit, no?
Yeah. So the only issue that can happen is the blacklisting, right? Because CoinJoin transactions can be seen from the blockchain, so you just blacklist stuff that are coming from CoinJoins, which is just another mythical thing because it's not happening. What's being blacklisted is like from darknet market to exchange. That's the transaction. If it goes through a mixer, then it's they don't care about it anymore because they kind of lost the track. They could still de-anonymize, but then they have to introduce more heuristics and more unreliability. Anyway, but they can start blacklisting, right? No one prevents them. And what if they start blacklisting mixing? Well, then we kind of failed building money. I don't know, go to work for Monero or something like that. It would be a really terrible situation. Yeah.
Well, what I like to say is like I feel like if they start if they say you can't send directly a CoinJoin a UTXO that was just CoinJoin like directly to Coinbase or something, then users start doing like a ricochet situation where they do like 4 regular transactions after the CoinJoin and then they send it. And if at that point they're still blacklisting like anything that has a history of CoinJoin in it, like we're fucked. Like Bitcoin is like completely fucked at that point. So I don't think it's like a real concern for people to be like, I don't want to hold coins that have a CoinJoin history, because if that actually ever becomes a true concern, then we have way bigger problems.
Well, also, what if it just lights a fire under everybody's ass to just be like, fuck you, I'm going to send my Bitcoin to a CoinJoin, and it gets to like a tipping point where it's like, all right, most of the coins are CoinJoin now. What are you going to do about it? Just not let people transact on Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons, right? Yeah. One of the reasons why I think it's important that we get more people to use it as quick as possible is to kind of like push the hand, like make it so that it becomes untenable to do anything. So
this is probably a good segue, Adam. Let's talk about like the growth of Wasabi, like how much liquidity you guys have on Wasabi, how much that's been growing, and how much that's been helping the anonymity set over time.
A lot. We are kind of tripling our user base every month, and that's huge growth in this bear market. I'm not sure what to expect. We did not do any active marketing, only like when we got when someone asked us to go for a conference to speak or something like that, then we went, but we did not do any marketing, so it's just as organic as it can get. So yeah, I'm kind of scared. I mean, it's so much money goes through it, and have to make sure everything is super stable and ready for Wasabi Wednesday.
Is this your Satoshi don't kick the hornet's nest call right now, or?
So the coordinator fee address is a public address, right? so we can. It's relatively transparent how the growth is going, right? Because you can basically extrapolate based on how much fees you guys have gotten.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty cool.
No, and that's like one thing I'm interested to see is like how, because that's one thing we talk about, like Matt expounds upon in particular, is that privacy loves company. So I'm assuming like the increase in liquidity and amount of Bitcoin being shuffled through Wasabi, is that allowing you to sort of up the maximum like coin join that you can do, the maximum amount of Bitcoin you can sort of engage a coin join with? Right.
So it speeds up the process.
Yeah, exactly.
It speeds up the process. It makes it more private, and it just makes it way more useful of a tool. Like the more people you have using it, the actual default anonymity set that Wasabi uses, you can change on a user level. So you can up it and lower it on user level. It defaults at 51. And then once, but it defaults at 51, but you can basically just keep remixing to increase the, you can basically increase the anonymity set by remixing.
Yeah.
But obviously that's like more artificial. You want more people to use it. You want as many people to use it as possible. So that you're hiding in a bigger crowd.
Exactly. So Adam, how many Bitcoin are on Wasabi right now in total, or have gone through? That's what I'm trying to get at. Is where are we?
Oh, I don't know a lot. On the website it says 17,000 Bitcoin, but that's just a small part of it because this only looks at the equal CoinJoin outputs, right? So how many Bitcoin went through it? It's like hundreds of thousands. And the interesting thing, even with the change, the change is not anonymized. So even with the change, that's kind of anonymized because it cannot be de-anonymized in a large scale because it just computationally is so expensive to find all the combinations. Those are possibly be the change. So if you look at only one input and one change output, then you can do it. But if you're looking at all the coin joins, it just takes a lot of computation. So that's very interesting too.
So I have, so you guys have been iterating extremely well. Just constant updates we've been seeing. Are there any big features on the horizon that you might want to highlight?
Oh yeah, at this we are releasing a daemon, a mixing daemon. So what that means is that you can fire up your command line. You can say Wasabi mix wallet name, and it's going to mix for you without launching the GUI, without launching the user interface. So that could come handy for some people. Other things, maybe it's worth mentioning the deterministic builds, which just means that people can reproduce the builds. So members of the community can verify that the binaries those are built came from the same source code as it is on GitHub. So people of the community can verify that I am not putting some virus or something into the released binaries. So that's an important thing too. This just got released right now. If you want something more interesting for the future, there is a lot to do.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm extremely excited regardless. Those are both big things. And I just feel like every update, it gets more user-friendly, easier to use. One of the other things I wanted to bring up is what's the reasoning behind defaulting to the 51 default anonymity set? Why not make that higher?
Yes, I. So it was a long time ago. I sent out emails to people like Tim Ruffing from CoinShuffle, Ethan Hyman, who created Tumblebeat, Chris Belcher, Adam Gibson from Join Market, and sent out emails that, hey, we have to do something with, decide something on this anonymity set. So what should we consider acceptable, because there is just no research on it, and decision has to be made. And it looked like 50 seemed to be a rough consensus on it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Why not increase it right now? I think we should, because actually remixing is way more valuable than just mixing. I don't know if you noticed that, but if you are looking at probability and not anonymity sets, then it's going to be like, if you mix once, then the chances that your coin corresponds to your output is 1 per 50, right? So 2%. And if you mix again the same coin, then it's exponential. It becomes exponential in theory, but in practice, whatever. But this intuition can show us that remixing is much better. However, I did not expect people remixing even once at the beginning, so I thought everyone's gonna just mix once and be done with it. But that's not what's happening, and we learned a lot since then. So the point is that if we elevate it to 100, then yeah, that would be probably better, but because that would incentivize remixing at least once. But on the other hand, it would be like people already have green shields, right? And then the green shields become not green. That's might be annoying. That's a UX 101. You cannot disrupt the user's workflow like eBay. The classical example is eBay. eBay was yellow. They changed it to white. People were, oh my God, it cannot be white. Yellow is so much better. So what did eBay have to do? They wrote an algorithm that in 1 year changes the color just a little bit whiter, and it eventually became white.
I never knew that. That's hilarious. I do like that you can change your own defaults in the configuration file. I was thinking, putting that in the GUI could be very useful to people, so I don't have to like explain to them how to get to the configuration file. And also I was wondering, is there my first instinct is that to use your own custom anonymity set, does that has to help you, right? Because it destroys another assumption, right? Like if a bad actor is assuming that everyone's using 51 because that's the default, then if you use even like 57 or something, but then my other thought was, can that make it even more trackable because you're the only guy using 57 anonymity set? Do you have any comment there?
Thing is that we should put it in the UI. Definitely, just priorities. In fact, we actually put in this release, if you click File, Open Config File, that's how you will reach the config file, which is much better. But yes, we should put it in the UI. Just there are so many things to do, and I don't think this is that important yet. The other thing is that the main problem with Bitcoin privacy is we don't have an adversary, which so security for a security metric to mean something, it should reflect the difficulty of an adversary overcoming this. But the issue is that right now blockchain analysis companies just don't care about mixing, because 70% of all the darknet market users are just sending money directly to exchanges. So they just don't care about mixes because they have such a so much low hanging fruits that they don't even try to de-anonymize. So yes, we have hard time choosing adversary, right? So we don't know if 50 or 100, and even the anonymity set metric is not that great, because remixing is much more valuable, but that's not shown in the anonymity set metric, because we should change to probability metric instead of anonymity set. It gets really complicated really fast, especially without real world adversary.
So if you up it, it doesn't really matter if it's a unique or like a round number, right? Like, so I'm saying, like, is someone who uses like a 200 anonymity set significantly more protected than someone who uses like a 205 anonymity set, that maybe he's the only one that's using 205, but a lot of people use 200 because it's a nice round number?
Yes, so I am using 1000 on my server on my normal Bitcoin wallets that I'm mixing through, and I'm using 100 on the Bitcoin wallet, my spending Bitcoin wallet. So I mean, better. Yeah, but yeah, actually, I don't have any idea, but
and
those are what I chosen for myself.
You saying that out loud, I'm using 1000 anonymity set, that doesn't hurt your privacy at all, right?
Oh no, that just makes the mix as extremely unlikely. I mean, they wouldn't think that someone is doing 1000 anonymity sets, so it's just not even a reasonable assumption to do that someone is doing 100 anonymity set. And yeah, so I mean, if I'm using much more than normal people, then I'm just way more private. Not like it would matter again because we don't have an adversary, but that was my thinking process.
Well, one of the problems with blockchain, right, is even if we don't have an adversary now, we could presumably have an adversary in 5 years that uses the same data that is being recorded now, right? Because this data lives forever. So we have to be prepared for like future adversaries that might pop up and screw us over for things we did 5 years ago.
Which actually brings us back to the point that when you send to Ledger and you send from Ledger and send back to Ledger, well, chances are Ledger is not spying on you. So it's like confidentiality is such an old metric old way of doing security, so much older than privacy. So when you do that, then you have confidentiality, and chances are they are not sharing your data with anyone. But it's better not to even give a chance, of course. But confidentiality is not as bad, actually. The banking system works that way, and my neighbor cannot figure out how much money I have in the bank. Okay, he might can because I don't have anything. I only have Bitcoin. But anyway, go on.
When people ask me like what some of my biggest fears are for Bitcoin, specifically with Bitcoin privacy, one of my biggest fears is if Ledger was compromised, because not only do they have all that UTXO data, they're linking all your public keys to you if they are doing that. they also have tons of our addresses because people got them shipped directly to us, so they can link the pub key to the address, to the physical
the
home
home
address,
address,
to the name, to the credit card if you bought it with a credit card.
Yeah, to an extent, it is happening right now with the Bloom filtering SPV wallets, like your bread wallet. They can tell you exactly how much money you have in your bread wallet because the Bloom filter collecting stuff is just so powerful that it's scary. So, uh, but they don't have your credit card data, so that's not that bad.
Yeah, I feel like that's the problem with all this is that right now, like privacy with Bitcoin is it's like way more of an art form than it is like a science. Like if you fuck up one little thing, you know, you have to like think of all these little things that you have to constantly be aware of and vigilant of.
No, I think that's a good like segue into like the next question, Adam, is like, what do you think, if anything, Bitcoin can add like at the protocol level to make your job easier, to make not even your job easier, just to make privacy easier and more innate on the Bitcoin blockchain? Are you looking for something like Schnorr, Mast, and Taproot, or some other, or are you sort of content with Wasabi like privacy features?
So they could add confidential transactions and make everything that I worked on so far obsolete. That would be really nice. Schnorr is okay. So Schnorr confidential transactions, and we could decentralize the CoinJoins more with value shuffle, coin shuffle stuff. That's the big vision, right? Okay, one part of the equation is CoinShuffle plus plus. CoinShuffle plus plus still needs a central server like Wasabi. It's just exact same properties as Wasabi, just more decentralized. It still needs a central server, but decentralization is a scale. So the central server is only a bulletin board, which means the peers are just sending message to the server and read other peers' messages, which is more decentralized, which is quite nice. So this is one way making Wasabi more decentralized. The other thing is these amount stuff we are always talking about, like you have to have equal outputs and equal this, equal that, anonymity set, whatever. These confidential transactions would solve everything if it gets into Bitcoin, which is a huge if, but I don't want to get into that. For a moment, confidential transactions blinds the amount, so no one can see the amounts, and that's the huge cheat there in terms of designing privacy technologies. And value shuffle, which is built on CoinShuffle plus plus, is CoinShuffle plus plus using confidential transactions. Now, how can we make this as economical as normal people, as normal transactions? We introduce bullet proofs, which makes confidential transactions smaller and linearly aggregatable, which just means if we have like 100 people, then the proof of the output it's not gonna matter anymore because just people share the cost. And the same with Schnorr. Schnorr, if you have a coin join and you aggregate your signatures with Schnorr signatures, then the input signatures become smaller. Then you aggregate the signatures. So in a big coin join, 100 people participates, only uses one signature. So people pay off their size on the Bitcoin network. So that's going to be great, because now we are at the point that because of confidential transactions and bulletproofs and Schnorr, Bitcoin join would be even would cost even less than a normal Bitcoin transaction, which is just great. Of course, we need confidential transactions for that, which is just there are a lot of issues with that. So I'm not very bullish at this point of time. But who knows? No one ever tried to define soft forks into Bitcoin with confidential transactions. So you never know. Maybe we need some better crypto.
Yeah, no, and if the last decade has taught us anything, is that Bitcoiners are very creative in ways in which they can figure out to implement these types of changes. And like you said, that's something that we touch on here at Rabbit Hole Recap in particular, is if it gets to a point where like Schnorr is implemented and bulletproofs are implemented, and it just becomes you're more better incentivized to join in a CoinJoin transaction than a regular transaction. Like that is possibly the best way to get a private Bitcoin, is just make the incentive so it's inherently private.
Yeah, if it's cheaper, more people will use it. And more people use it, then we have more privacy.
Yeah.
Okay, so we had a nice solid 40 minutes on Wasabi. Shall we move into like a 20-minute quick round?
Yeah, let's do a quick round. Adam, we're gonna drag you into some topical stuff. Let's start out. This week's sponsor, Unchained Capital, launched their Vault service, which is bringing multisig solutions to the market. More multisig solutions, I would say. This is a pretty big announcement. Like we said in the beginning of the episode, you can engage with these multisig sort of schemes with Ledger or Trezor. Unchained will hold the third key in your 2 or 3 multisig. You will have complete control of your coins at all time, and you can sort of tap Unchained if you need them to help you sign a message or something like that. But 100% cold storage, sovereign, multi-sig solution.
So my issue with the Unchained Cap multisig is that it requires a KYC check.
Mm-hmm.
They take your ID info and stuff, and the Unchained team is fantastic. Like they say, they're not going to share this information, and I completely believe that they have zero intention of doing it. But could be a major privacy leak there, and it doesn't seem like it has any regulatory requirement to do that because they don't actually have custody.
Yes, they don't have custody. So that's when I talked to Drew and Parker about this. They said that point in particular, like they don't believe that any authorities could come and subpoena information from them.
But so then why are they doing the KYC in the first place? And my guess that they're doing the KYC is because they want you to already be through the KYC so that you can go right easily into their loan product.
I can't speak to that. But that sounds structurally right to me.
So I would say that, and I think Adam would agree with me, that is if you were going to use this product, like you should probably go through Wasabi first.
I'm not sure. I mean, people should not use Wasabi just because it's cool. They should use when they realize that they actually need to reclaim their privacy, right? Otherwise, it's just annoyance. But when they realize that it's, oh, if I don't use it, it's a problem, then that's when they should.
But you don't think that if someone's using this multi-sig, if they're storing coins with Unchained Capital and Unchained Capital has KYC, like if they go in there without if they go in there without going through Wasabi first, then they're just linking all their past transactions and potentially all their I mean the future transactions I guess don't really matter, but they're linking all their past transactions and like basically letting know the KYC service that they use, you know, this is where I'm storing my coins.
You are right. I am not sold by them. I don't see why I don't see any situation where I would use their things based on the information I know. But there might be some people who needs that. I really don't know.
Yeah. No, I think this product in particular is probably best for like businesses and people that are running businesses together that want to set up joint accounts with a third party to help in a multi-sig facilitation. I think this makes sense for them, and there will be products and companies that use Bitcoin they're comfortable with this. I would argue, and then people, maybe family offices or trusts that want the security of a third party helping them in this custody solution.
Yeah, it's a user-friendly play. And
Yes.
also I think there's actually like a subset of clients that prefer that they do the KYC so they know who owns the account.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. It's like the thing we talked about BlockFi last week. It depends if it's in your risk appetite or not. And this risk appetite being your risk for exposing your privacy and to who. So if you are trying to hide all your UTXOs and do not want people to know which UTXOs you own, probably not the best product for you. But if you're in a business engagement and you need a multisig setup with your business partner and you guys are okay with sharing your income and revenue streams and being KYC'd on that platform, it seems like a perfect setup for that type of environment.
Yeah, so let's jump into, we're running short on time here. Let's jump into the Trezor vulnerabilities, I think.
Oh, I want to talk about porn.
Porn and KYC in UK?
Yeah.
So the Brits are implementing KYC for porn. You have to register your passport or register your government ID with them to view it.
Yeah, to view porn. The British government is making a list of porn watchers. So any of our British freaks out there, the government's going to know what you're fapping to going forward. So good luck to you.
I just think this is like a perfect example of internet privacy violations, and that they start with these type of things that can get more widespread support, and then they start expanding their speech block. You know, like maybe you can't access Wasabi's website or something.
They're gonna go right for 4chan after porn, I bet.
Do you have any opinion on this, Adam? I think the benefit is that there's going to be a whole group of young Brits that are going to learn what VPNs are and how to use them.
Yeah. Even with that being said, don't watch too much porn, freaks. It's bad for you. It's bad for your mind.
Yeah, but if you're going to watch porn, like, use a VPN. Like, even if your country doesn't, like, KYC you, like, you could always get blackmailed for your porn habits at a later date.
This is true.
So you should at least use a VPN, learn about it.
Yeah, I would recommend it at least. Good luck to you, our British brethren looking to fap out there.
Do not register. Do not register for the porn KYC. Just use a VPN. Okay, so let's move to the Trezor vulnerabilities.
This was a hot topic in the Bent this week. Wrote about it 2 days in a row. Charles Guillemette from Ledger, he's their head security officer, I believe, went to the MIT Bitcoin Expo over the weekend and displayed a number of attacks that the Ledger security team was able to successfully engage with using Trezor hardware devices. I watched the presentation live and then watched it a couple times after as well. To me, it seems like a lot of these vulnerabilities were disclosed by the wallet.fail team late last year. So this wasn't news to me. It seems like all the attacks either need to be supply chain, which every hardware wallet is vulnerable to, or physical attacks where the attacker has physical access to your Trezor for an extended period of time, which is an assumption I've been working under the whole time I've owned a Trezor. Is if somebody ever gets access to this, they could probably hack into it.
Like, eventually, with enough time, with enough skill set,
Yes.
enough motivation. I mean, the thing is, like, compared to a seed, if they get the seed on a piece of paper, then they automatically have access to it. If they get the Trezor, like, at least they have to be, like, more sophisticated. As far as the Ledger is less susceptible to supply chain attacks because they have that proprietary secure chip that is authenticated when you connect it to the software. But that has its own set of risks because it's not open
bootloader
source.
risk, right, or something like that.
It's not open source, so you don't even know what's going on with the chip. You're like trusting them to a degree. So they both have their own trade-offs, and of course, Ledger's gonna attack Trezor for not having that chip, right? That's their bread and butter. Adam, do you have a preference over if you recommend a hardware wallet to I guess like a normal user? Do you recommend a Ledger versus a Trezor, or a Trezor versus a Ledger?
So first of all, I'm traveling, so I'm always under the assumption that all of my possession is going to be stolen from me, and they are from time to time. So I never used the hardware wallet actually before. Um, but now I wasn't even paying attention, but now I realized that hardware wallet companies are so hostile to each other. I was,
Right?
oh my God, I can't believe they don't.
It's like shitting in the baby pool and ruining it for everybody. They're just
Yeah,
like,
it's like,
that's what I was talking about in a side channel this week. It's like all these hardware wallets attacking each other is just having people lose confidence in hardware wallets overall, right?
yeah, and it's procrastination, right? Because hardware wallets are can be all hardware wallets can be hacked if you have physical access to it, but that's very rarely the case. And by the time you hack them, he's gonna just move the coins because he noticed that his hardware wallet is missing.
Yeah, and that's what. Oh, sorry for interrupting, but Trezor came out with their official response, and that's what they said. Like 5% of Trezor users are afraid of physical attacks. Like more people are worried about getting attacked via their computer or something like
There's
that.
been no known attacks. We've never had. I don't think we've had any known.
I mean, there's been $5 wrench attacks.
Right, but I don't think we've had ever had any known compromises.
Yeah,
and
not
then
to
the
that.
other thing is, like, if you use a passphrase, you're a lot more secure because even if they pull your seed. And then if you use multisig with both the hardware wallets, then they both have to be compromised.
Exactly. At the same time.
Right. So what would be a real issue if they would be able to figure out how to hack it remotely, which is unlikely.
That's the scary
That's
situation.
when I would say, okay, I wouldn't recommend this hardware wallet to anyone, but until that happens, I just don't mind.
But I do agree with the logic about the traveling. Like when you travel, you should never.
Yeah, don't put it in nature's pocket or just don't travel with it at
just
all.
assume that when you travel, like every single piece of that you have with you can just be fucking violated and searched and taken from you.
Oh yes, that's the other thing. Yeah.
Especially if you come to America. That's one of the reasons we agreed to the remote with you, because I completely understand you're
Aversion
never
to this
coming.
country.
You're not coming to America for a long time, so we really had no alternative.
Next topic. This is an interesting one. So there was a precipitous decline in the amount of transactions on the Bitcoin network since the last time we met here on Rabbit Hole Recap. Some people were trying to attribute that to the rolling blackouts in Venezuela, and it would have been a cool story if
If it was true.
If it was true, but it's probably not true. It turns out Veriblock, that project that is basically securing other blockchains by hashing data into the Bitcoin blockchain, they ended their test net, I believe, March 8th or something like that. And that was probably the main cause of the transaction downturn. But it's an interesting case study in, I don't want to say ethical block space use or efficient block space use, but it looks like Veriblock, they're going to turn back they're going to turn their mainnet on, I believe, Friday in a couple days here. So maybe we'll see transactions begin to increase again, but it does beg the question, like, is Veriblock like the new Satoshi's dice? Are they taking up too much space? Is it a worthwhile use case of the Bitcoin blockchain?
This is why the weight limit exists. This is why there's fee pressure. You know, if they do it, then they're just going to end up costing themselves a ton of money, and they'll price themselves out. It'll eventually become unviable for them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if they had unlimited block size, they could just block weight. They could just do whatever the hell they wanted.
Yeah, it's surprising they're not using BSV.
It's not secure. You don't secure other chains with an insecure chain. So
What are you talking about, man? It's Satoshi's vision.
don't even get me started. What else do we have here? The Texas proposed bill. This is a good one for Adam. Did you see this bill, Adam? In Texas?
I heard about it, but you could refresh my memory.
They said that if that the only currency, it's a proposed bill. They haven't actually passed it or anything, but basically that for a digital currency to be legal, you have to know who the sender is when they send it to you.
Yeah, Texas is trying to dox all their users.
I'm not even sure how to react to that.
I think laughing is the appropriate reaction.
It's
Yeah,
unreal. We are living in our own bubbles, and they are living in their own bubbles, and
Right?
whose bubble is going to pop first?
How does our bubble win? That's just it. I mean, that's been part of like the overarching conversation of this podcast, like the last 3 months or last 3 episodes in particular, is like the governments are just like historically too slow to move against this stuff. Adam, maybe this is like a good ending topic. Like, you're on the front lines of building sort of technologies that overtly conflict with what these governments are trying to achieve. So do you think governments do have the ability to move quick enough to stop the stuff that you're working on?
Look at it. Think about this question. Bitcoin is legal. This is crazy. How can this be legal? I mean, this is going to destroy the largest power that governments have, printing money. This can't be legal. This doesn't make sense, right? So based on this logic, we might even have a future where privacy is by default. It's not that crazy idea.
No, I don't think it's that crazy, but
It still amazes me. That
let's put our tinfoil hats on right now. What if the government wants us to adopt Bitcoin? That's why they're being so easy on
well,
it.
that's best case scenario. Like if the government is Satoshi, then
Is it though?
then we've already won.
The future is bright. We just have a lot of work to do.
That's right, and that's why I'm ecstatic that we're able to get you on this week, Adam. You're an individual in my mind that's doing an immense amount of work to number one, just show people that this vision's viable and this mission's worthwhile, and then number two, you're actually producing good products that people are using and helping out the community at large. So I just want to thank you for joining us for this hour and all the work that you've done at Wasabi.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah, we have a ton of insane amount of respect for you and everything that you and your team have done. I've been waiting for like a user-friendly privacy wallet since like the dark wallet days of like 2013, 2014, where Amir and Cody were telling us all these great things were going to happen with dark wallet, and it just never really materialized. So it's I think that even if we don't, there's a lot of improvements to be desired on a protocol level, but even if we don't hit those, we have like this base minimum privacy tool we can use is a absolutely huge step forward.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's base minimum. I would say we covered privacy well. There is really nothing to do about privacy anymore. That wouldn't be procrastination. It's just we have to make it more convenient, easier to use, and faster, and cheaper, and that's all. This is what it all comes down to. It's like privacy is not an issue anymore. Privacy is solved. You just have to make it not bloat the blockchain and maybe a bit more decentralized, things like that. So yeah, that's my thinking.
I mean, my two issues I think that are one is like a low hanging fruit, which is, it makes sense that it's not a priority, but people have been talking about like hardware wallet integration. Like obviously you can't do live mixing with hardware wallet because you need to be able to sign the transactions. It needs to be a hot wallet, but if we need better ways of interacting with our hardware wallets easily, and Wasabi seems like a natural fit because it's got such good coin control. It's got Tor built in. It can use your Bitcoin full node like out of the box. So that'll be, I think, would be a pretty big, a huge improvement. And then the main issue I have with at least in a pre-Schnorr world, with a CoinJoin implementation is that if fees do go up, it could become quite the issue, which is one of the reasons why I think it's important that people use it now while fees are cheap.
Low. Yeah. Hurry up before Veriblock turns on their mainnet.
Yes. One small thing I want to say that it is possible to do hardware wallet with CoinJoin. Now it is clear for me that it is possible. It just work has to be done on the hardware wallet sign for auto signing, and basically the same scriptability is needed that's needed for Lightning Network. Anyway, I just wanted to mention this.
So what would you would like pre-sign for like a certain amount of days or something, like a certain number of transactions you would pre-sign, something to that effect?
The most basic idea is that you tell the hardware wallet that sign every transaction until $10 leaves the wallet, and after that don't sign any transaction, right? So it's going to mix and the attacker can only get $10 out of it. So yeah, that's possible. That's
awesome. I like where your head's at.
I think that's a perfect place to end it this week. We're at an hour. Adam, again, thank you for joining us and all the work you've done. I don't know if you have a parting note or a parting message for the freaks out there, but this is your time.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. My message would be that choose hardware wallets based on color, right? It really doesn't matter if the hardware wallet is well known. Then don't be afraid of scaremongering. Color is the most important thing. If you like pink, then it should be pink.
I like that. Bedazzle your hardware wallet, freaks. That's the parting note.
And we've shilled Wasabi a ton of times on the pod, but it's wasabiwallet.io. It's available on Linux, on Mac, on Windows. Very easy to install and use, and you should at least check it out with some small amounts of Bitcoin and play around with it and get your feet wet.
Get your feet wet, freaks.
And thank you again, Adam. And
that's it for this week.
Yeah.
Peace and love, freaks.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.